Hello to you all, this is OBN. I'm Thomas Kamrat with the news. The African Business Health Forum, ABHF 2019, kicked off in Finfinne City today. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is in attendance of the forum, according to the Office of Prime Minister. In his keynote address, the Prime Minister emphasized the need for affordable and quality health care for all, spread by governments and private sector working collaboratively to enable equitable access. ABHF aims to strengthen partnership, promote an ongoing dialogue between the African private and public sector, and foster opportunities for the private sector to contribute towards the collective efforts of key stakeholders in strengthening the national health system in Africa. The ABHF has brought together the partnership of African leadership, governments, chief executive officers, business and finance leaders, and high-level representations from the African Union and United Nations system. Outputs from the forum are expected to help shape and drive a health-centric agenda for Africa's accelerated development. The forum itself will culminate in the launch of a number of instruments to help scale up investments and partnership on health. The 32nd ordinary session of the African Union AU concluded yesterday. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi called for creation of more job opportunities and encourage investments. The chairman emphasized the need to resolve the ongoing challenges in Africa, particularly in terrorism. Let us Teresa reports.
During the press conference he held at the end of the 32nd ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, the newly elected chairperson of the African Union, who is also president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, stressed that the continuation of the works in order to implement more continental integration, peace and security throughout Africa will be the focal area of African leaders.
Many signs of optimism and confidence about the African integrity and complementarity, especially in the field of trade and economy, with the implementation of the AfCFTA, in addition to the facilitation of the movement of persons and the continuation of the work in order to implement more regional and continental integration plans in field of infrastructure, public health, education, as well as peace and security throughout Africa. These are the subjects, the issues that will be subject of our the attention of the African leaders.
He said African continent is still facing a number of political, security and economic challenges. This requires from African countries to pull their efforts and endeavors and scored. Adding it would be worked on peace and security as per the initiative of silencing guns by 2020 in Africa. The chairperson noted that the leaders have welcomed the progress made by African Union in enhancing peace and security.
African continent is still facing a number of political, security-wise and economic challenges that affect the achievements that have been made so far, and this requires from us to pool our efforts and endeavors.
Expressing that the Assembly had deliberated on situation of African countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Chad, and other parts of the continent, he said that the leaders have reaffirmed the agreement to the principle of African solutions to African problems. He also raised the reconciliation between Ethiopia and Eritrea as a concrete example.
Leaders have reiterated the agreement to the principle of African solutions to African problems, which led to positive results. And one of the recent results is the reconciliations between the neighbors, Eritrea and Ethiopia, and also the rekindling of hope in South Sudan.
According to Al-Sisi, the leaders had reiterated to continue enhancing good governance in Africa and the fight against corruption and instability. Chairperson of the African Union, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, underlined that Africa will sustain its support to Libya in fighting against terrorism, adding the African Union will give due emphasis to investment in education, science and technology. Climate change is also the issue that needs more attention. He reiterated the importance to speak in one voice to the international arena. Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mohammed, for his part, told journalists that the Summit Assembly had agreed on regular budget and a peace fund, what he said remarkable progress. He also said the issue of terrorism remains a threat, so it is important to take a lesson from the experience of Egypt in this area, the chairperson underscored.
The issue of terrorism, which has become a real threat on the continent, and I'm aware that the continent will benefit from the experience of Egypt in these areas. There is also the establishment of a center for post-conflict reconstruction and development that will be located in Egypt, and this is an important element.
According to him, the issue of Agenda 2063 has also been considered.
Deputy Prime Minister Demek Emekonnen noted that the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam project should be completed and give service as per scheduled. Fkadu Brown has more on that.
Even though the construction of Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam has planned to finalize in 5 years, it counts 8 years. Many problems are raised for its delay, especially the problems related to Mite. The government has also announced that it needs additional 4 years to finalize the project after it has identified the problems that were faced in the construction of the project. National Council of Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam Public Participation Coordinator and Deputy Prime Minister Demek Emekonnen said the government is working with due attention to complete the projects as per its schedule.
አሁን ባለው ሁኔታ የህዳሴ ግድባችንን አጠናክረን እንዲቀጥል ማድረግ አለብን ስንል
When we say we should continue the construction of the Renaissance Dam, it should be finalized as per its schedule. We do not need additional time, so stakeholders like Board, Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy, and leaders of electricity should play their role in doing so. If we do so, we construct quality project at the right time.
Demek added that the government is closely working with the stakeholders to solve the previous improper use of resource and lack of administration, and called upon all stakeholders to play their share. Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy, Dr. Engineer Seleshi Bekala, for his part, noted that the work of the dam is reached on 65%, adding that 98 billion is invested on the project till now. General Manager of the dam, Engineer Kafala Horro, said electromechanical work of the dam is delayed due to lack of attention.
We should track the project every time. When we face problem, we are ready to share it for stakeholders to find a solution. I promise in front of you to do so. Regarding the quality, we are working using every available technologies. So we are working with due attention to finalize the project with high quality.
Ethiopia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Workneh Gebeyehu, met with the State Minister of Foreign Affairs of State of Qatar, Sultan bin Saad Al Moraki, on the merger of the 32nd AU Summit. Both parties have underlined the importance of further strengthening the bilateral relation between Ethiopia and the State of Qatar. On the occasion, Dr. Workneh underscored that relation between Ethiopia and the State of Qatar is based on ensuring the mutual benefit of the people of the two countries. Sultan bin Saad Al Moraki, for his part, commended the comprehensive reforms spreaded by the Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed. He added that his country supports Ethiopia's efforts in maintenance of regional peace and stability. The two sides have also agreed on the importance of linking a bilateral labor agreement, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. First Lady Zunash Tayacho has urged Africans to pay attention to needy children and elderly poor at the Organization of African First Ladies Development Meeting being held in Finfinne City. Leta Teresa reports.
The Organization of African First Ladies for Development is an advocacy organization where First Ladies of Africa seek to leverage their unique position to advocate for policies that make health services accessible and laws that boost women and youth empowerment. The organization has held at its 22nd Ordinary General Assembly in Finfinne City, the capital of Ethiopia, at African Union Commission Old Building. On the event, First Lady of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Zunash Tayacho, in her welcome remarks said it was planned to build 20 secondary schools in Ethiopia. Of this, the construction of 15 schools is underway. She unveiled that various activities are being carried out to build schools and sanctuaries for people with disability, as well as support NGOs that are in charge of helping elderly. The First Lady called for supporting the people in need, expressing that there are plenty of vulnerable and helpless people in the continent.
ለስብሰባው መሪ ቃል ሁላችንም አንጾት እንድንሰጥ በተግባር እንድንተረጉመው በትህትና እጠይቃለሁ።
We have to address the needs of vulnerable population. What we contribute to help the needy people with love will have great contribution in solving their problems. I hope that we will be inspired for more work, experience sharing, and more cooperation after we conclude this meeting. President of the Organization of African First Ladies for Development was also First Lady of the Republic of Burkina Faso, Adjovi Sika Kabore, for her part in her opening speech stressed that more effort is needed to fight for health and welfare of the children, youth, and women in the continent.
This major challenge requires rigorous efforts in the implementation of our strategic plan, and we have to take ownership of this plan and to strongly commit to achieving it.
She also called for solidarity amongst the First Ladies of the continent.
Deputy Chief of Staff and Head of Operation Main Department with the National Defense Force, General Burhanu Jula, said the reform that was undertaken in the country is based to reform the National Defense Force. The General has held talk with OBN on the current status of the Defense Force. Olma Boyne has the story.
Deputy Chief of Staff and Head of Operation Main Department with the National Defense Force, General Burhanu Jula, said the reform that was undertaken in the country is based to reform the National Defense Force. General Burhanu said reform is not accomplished in a short period of time, adding that the National Defense Force has been working to improve complaints that are being raised on it from the people of the country. He noted that the National Defense Force is always stands on the side of its people.
Raya itsabiya qoba asatti demokrata ta'uu danda'u. Qoba asatti mirga namoomaa eeguu danda'u.
National Defense Force cannot be democratic and protect human rights alone. This is because of there is such problems within the government includes the National Defense Force. Making reform takes time. For instance, it took more than 6 months. For its preparation annually. Now we've been implementing it.
As it is emerged from the people. General Burhanu urged that members and management of the National Defense Force were reformed in a form that they represent the nations, nationalities, and peoples of the country. General Burhanu said the National Defense Force stands to protect any situation that hinder the sovereignty of the country.
Seera ittiin bulmaataa biyya kanaa eegna waan ta'eef seerri ittiin bulmaataa biyya kanaa immoo mirga dhala namaa eegaa, mirga demokraasii eegaa.
We stand to protect the constitution of the country because the constitution protects human rights of this country. We confront any force against this, whether it is from inside or outside. This is the obligation of National Defense Force, especially protecting human rights. Our National Defense Force doesn't stand for the interest of any single group.
He also said this year's National Defense Force Day will be nationally celebrated in collaboration with the Oromia regional states. He added that people of the region, especially youth, have great role in the changes registered in the country.
It is obvious that the role of Oromia youth and the change is very high. So celebrating the event where the change emerged is very important.
The day will be celebrated in Adama town of Oromia Regional Estate, where higher government officials, activists contesting political parties, and other concerned bodies are going to present.
Well, thank you for watching. Have a good time.